worries.
So, Neil, thank you very much for joining me today to preview the new NFL season, which is coming up quicker than we expected. First lot of preseason games have been done, and you just come back from America doing a preseason tour of different clubs. How was that, by the way?
Yeah, it was very good. I think it's always fascinating to see the teams work, how they get ready for the season. I spoke to some of the biggest stars in the game. Got 20 minutes with Aaron Rodgers, George Kittle, Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel. So it was a really good time just to kind of get the feel for which teams are. We never know. We never know who's going to be good, but to go get an idea of who the runners and riders are. And just this season's going to be fascinating. I think it comes off the back of the wildest NFL offseason I've ever seen. I've been covering the league full time since '97. I've never seen anything like it, so it's going to be fantastic when it gets going.
I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but before we do, I just want to reflect on last season because it felt like we got back to normality last season. Crowds were back, and it felt like a sense of, I said, normality coming back. But I want to get your opinion because I spoke to Will Gavin and he said about the second-year players, and that was their first proper off-season they had because of the first one of COVID. I just want to get your opinion on how it went because I felt like it was so unpredictable last season. No one knew what was going to happen each week. Each team had their own great results. Each team had their own slumps. What was your opinion on it?
I think that's certainly the case. It was an unpredictable season, all the way through the playoffs where Kansas City looked like they're in control against the Bengals. And, the next thing they look up at the scoreboard, they've been punched in the face and the Cincinnati Bengals are on the way to the Super Bowl. I think the playoffs were incredible. Again, that was the most amazing playoff series I've ever seen, leading all the way to the Super Bowl. I think that kind of wide open nature, that unpredictability, I don't think the pandemic had a play in that. I think that's just today's NFL. I think the level between teams who are good and bad is so thin. I think the ability to win or lose on any Sunday can turn on 3 or 4 plays. Teams who look like they've got momentum can suddenly just fall flat on their faces. But for players, I'm sure personally, Jonathan Taylor told me this offseason. Last year was the first year he went through a proper preparation. So I think the standard of play is going to continue to grow again as we kind of get back up to full speed. But there's still going to be twists and turns and shocks and headlines. That's why this is the greatest sporting soap opera, the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. And then coming to the Super Bowl now, I said the Chiefs thought they were there, and then next minute the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl, ends up facing the Rams, and the Rams actually beat them, and Sean McVay finally got the Super Bowl ring, which people have said he went all in for with the signs he made, and there was a risk that if he didn't get it in the next couple of seasons, when would he get it? So, what's your opinion on that match? Because I know you've hunted the Sky throughout the night with some great guests, and just your overall opinion on the game and how you see it play out.
Yes, I thought the Super Bowl was again a really intriguing game because it started off with both teams doing fairly well, moving the football, and then it kind of got bogged down. And you're like, the Bengals were leading, and the deeper you got into that game, you're like, well, the Rams are now throwing to their second or third string tight end, their fourth string wide receiver. I mean, they were digging as deep as you can dig, and all of a sudden, the Cincinnati Bengals were 4 or 5 minutes from being Super Bowl champions when they'd only won 4 games the previous year. So. And you think about, like you said, all that was invested into the Rams. It was to deliver that Super Bowl trophy. So the Bengals were kind of, what's that American phrase? They were playing with house money. I don't ever like that phrase because it means something to the Bengals as well. But they were playing free. The Rams had all the pressure on them, and they did deliver. And this is where these games, they're so big, but then there's a moment within them that we'll talk about for years. And consider this, now we're a few months past it. The Rams won the Super Bowl on the biggest drive of Matthew Stafford's life, and he decided to throw a pass where he wasn't even looking. He threw a no-look pass with his career legacy on the line to lead his team to Super Bowl victory. And if I'm a Rams fan, I'm happy they went all in because they have been competitive now for a number of seasons and probably will be for a number of more to come. So, it was a good game.
And then obviously, I think the only person you can think who would even try in that situation is obviously Patrick Mahomes. Is to throw a no-look pass in the Super Bowl with the title on the line. He's probably the only person you'd think who actually try that in that moment.
Yeah, need a lot of nerve and just to back yourself. And Matthew Stafford certainly backed himself.
And now I'm going to ask you something that you've probably seen over the past few years, which has grown, and that's the growth of NFL in the UK. Because I feel like over the past few years, it's just gone from strength to strength. More fans attending matches, more fans from the UK wanting to get into the game. How have you seen it from your point of view when you've been presenting these games to Sky, and like how you seeing the fans interact with each other?
Yes, I think that we kind of have these games year after year now, and there is no sort of jadedness. There's no decline in the interest. There's no stagnation. Everything continues to grow year on year, whether that's people playing flag football, whether that's people playing in universities, people watching on Sky Sports, the amount of people that register for tickets, how quickly tickets sell out, and then how great the atmosphere is at the games. We've now got 2 games at Tottenham, which is part of the the kind of official deal between the NFL and Tottenham. Then you've got the Jags going and creating their own inventory and playing games at Wembley. You've got 6 teams that are now marketing themselves in the UK and doing it very actively and looking to be very aggressive in growing their brands in the UK. Certainly been working with a lot of those teams, visited a lot of those teams in training camp. So it's only going from strength to strength, and now you add Germany to the European kind of arm, and those fans absolutely deserve a game. Cannot wait to see that. We're going to be there, Sky Sports, for that one. That's going to be historic. It's going to be fantastic. So yeah, nothing is slowing down. Everything is full steam ahead. I don't know what the end is or where the end is, but it's very exciting.
Well, could the MB, as was been talked about, an NFL franchise coming from London, like logistics and money, do you think that could actually work? It's like the ultimate end goal, an NFL, a team from London playing in the NFL.
I absolutely think it could work. I absolutely believe we should have a London franchise, and I think a London franchise would be hugely successful. This is maybe a bit pie in the sky, but I think there's groundwork being done to have the ability for a European division. Now, how long that is down the road, I don't know. But if you think about it, there wasn't a team in LA for 20 plus years, and then there were 2 almost immediately, the Rams and the Chargers. So you've got games being played at Tottenham, you've got games being played at Wembley, there's 2 in London. You've got alternate games being played in Munich and Frankfurt. Is that because there could then be 2 in Germany? I think the groundwork is being laid and has been laid. So obviously it's still being laid in Germany and other parts of Europe, but in the UK, in terms of stadium support, government support, fan support, everything is there now. And that was always the plan, have it ready, and then it's up to an owner if they want to move their team there, or if up to the league if they want to expand there. London is ready for an NFL franchise.
And now, obviously, we're going to talk about what you talked about before about the off season. And as you said, this has been one of the craziest off seasons, as you said, any one of us can remember, because we have Brady retiring, then saying, "Oh no, it's false," and then actually retiring, and then not retiring. There was that big story, and you've had trades and all that. And just get your opinion on what you said before about like how crazy this off season's been.
Yeah, it says my internet connection's shaky, but keep going. It looks like it's come back now. yeah, this is the most amazing off-season I've ever seen, because it featured some of the biggest names in the game. You know, Brady, is he retiring? Then he comes back after 40 days. Now he's taking a 10-day break in training camp. I mean, it's just continuing the headlines with Tom Brady. Um, you know, on the same day, Aaron Rodgers, I was sure he was going to leave the Packers, and I was sure he was going to the Denver Broncos. Then on the same day, Rodgers signs an extension with the Packers, and Russell Wilson is traded to the Denver Broncos. Then a few days after that, Devontae Adams from the Packers to the Raiders. A couple of days after that, it's Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins, and all of the backdrop as well, all the unsavory stuff with Deshaun Watson is still a huge story from an NFL point of view, whether we like that or not. You know, and I don't want to see Deshaun Watson playing in the league ever again. But this is a superstar quarterback, and we don't know what his fate is. And yet he signs a huge deal with the Cleveland Browns. So, whether we like that one or not, that was one of the headlines of the off season as well. So yeah, it's just been non-stop really, and I think that's the way the NFL is going to go. Again, they enjoy that year-round drama, and they want all of that player movement, and now players have more power than ever before to demand trades. I only think we're going to see more of it.
And you were saying about Deshaun Watson, because obviously he's still going on the way. It was announced that he got a 6-game suspension, but then the NFL have actually appealed that. They want it longer, and a judge has been assigned to the appeal, and it's all still going on. And on the Browns, because I'm actually a Browns fan, I've really come to like the Browns, which has disappointed me in the past few seasons. I will say that, but how do you think that's going to affect them this season, especially because they're not sure how long Watson's going to be out for, whether he's going to play, and their backups, and how they're going to see the next couple of years if Watson is suspended indefinitely?
So obviously they have the uncertainty of how long Deshaun Watson is suspended for. Do you go with Jacoby Brissett? Do you bring in Jimmy Garoppolo? Do you go with a different quarterback? But more than that and beyond that, at some point, whether we like it or not, Deshaun Watson is going to come back to the NFL, and he is going to be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. So then the Browns have to deal with a very different dynamic than what they've seen in the last couple of years. The Browns have been the fairy tale story. The Browns have been the feel-good story of the offseason. I was at Browns camp a couple of years ago. There were national reporters there. NFL Network was there. There were 15,000 fans in the stands. Whether they like it or not, the Browns made the bed they're about to lie in, and the Browns are going to be public enemy number one. That is a dramatic shift from where they were the last couple of years. And they decided to go down that route.
And you mentioned about Jimmy Garoppolo, and obviously it's been announced that Garoppolo won't be fronting the 49ers. It'll be Trey Lance. That's his. They said it's now his team. How do you think that's going to affect Garoppolo? Where do you think he'll move next?
So it's very interesting. When I was in San Francisco recently, I watched Garoppolo working on a practice field on his own with a trainer while the rest of the team did their work on the next field. He's done in San Francisco. So he's got this very awkward situation where does he go to the New York Jets if Zach Wilson's injury is a little bit more serious? Does another team get an injury? He's almost waiting for something bad to happen somewhere else for him to get another shot. And, again, that's come about by subpar play from him. He missed the throw that should have won them a Super Bowl at the end of 2019. He was not up to the job last year when the team was good enough to get to the NFC Championship game again. So he's kind of in limbo. He's in quarterback limbo, and I think he's got enough experience to be a starter somewhere else, but that won't be in San Francisco. They are, as I've said before, they're all in on Trey Lance.
Yeah, and it is interesting on Garoppolo, because I remember saying a couple of years ago that I thought he was going to take over from Brady when Brady left the Patriots, but he was back up for a long time, and I thought moving from the Patriots could be like a bad move for him because he knew the playbook. he knew how the Patriots work, but obviously things happen. And what would you say on that? Do you think he made a mistake leaving the Patriots, or do you think he thought he needs a different challenge?
Well, he knew that number 12 wasn't going anywhere, and he was a competitor. Again, these players back themselves. He needed to get out of New England. I think Brady wanted him out of New England, from what I've read and what I've learned. So he probably didn't have much choice. And actually, end of 2017, he was fantastic in San Francisco. He made 5 starts. They won those games. I wrote a big long article about him in the 2018 offseason that he was going to be the next big thing in the NFL, and he just hasn't been good enough. He hasn't been good enough, especially throwing outside the hash marks, making those big time throws to the outside. He hasn't been able to do that. And so he needed to find a challenge. He needed to be a starter in the NFL. And I think he's had a good run at it. And I think he'll probably get another run at it somewhere. But yeah, he's definitely the gloss has come off Jimmy Garoppolo, that's for sure.
And now coming to this season, and your opinion on the Week 17, because last season was, I think, the first season the NFL brought in this Week 17 and interconference matches. What was your opinion on that? Do you think it added more excitement and maybe gave teams that extra opportunity to get into the playoffs if they were on the edge? Or do you think it was an extra game which might not have been necessary?
Well, I think whichever way you look at it, you're going to have, by week 17 or whether it was week 18, whichever, by the time you get to that last round of games, you're going to have teams that are eliminated and playing for nothing, and you're going to have 4 or 5 that are looking to squeeze into the race. So that doesn't really change whether you're playing 16 regular season games or 17. I think the drama at the end of last season suggests that it wasn't a bad thing. Every player you speak to will talk about the toll it's going to take on their body, yet they signed up for it because there's more money available if you play extra games. And I think we'll go to 18 at some point. I think it'll be 18 with 2 bye weeks. That the NFL realizes that there's only a few ways they can grow the game more, or grow their finances more. One is gambling now in the US. One is internationally. That's a big part of it. And then domestically, what else can you do other than add to the inventory? Spread games across the week a little bit more. We've got Christmas Day games this year. We had games during the pandemic, all right, forced by the pandemic, but we had games on Tuesdays. We had games on Wednesdays. So they'll probably look at spreading stuff out, and they'll add to the inventory, I think. And I think the players will complain about it, and they will talk about the toll, and quite rightly, that it takes on their body. And then they'll see the huge amount of money that's available, and they will sign up for it. I mean, the money that's running through the game and running through the players now in the last 5 years has grown so dramatically that I think the players won't be able to help themselves. So I think 17 was not negative, and I don't think it's going to be any slowing down towards 18. I think that'll happen soon.
Yeah, and obviously you said about the players and the money and that. And do you think squad, like rosters, will become even more important then if it does go to 18 weeks? Because this may be just me, but I've always thought when a team has 3 quarterbacks and they make one inactive on a game day, yes, I understand you've got to have roster depth, but if your first choice quarterback gets injured, you go to the backup. Then if the backup gets injured, you've got to go to an emergency quarterback. And then I start to think that's what you've got your third string quarterback for. I just want to get your opinion quickly on teams that make a quarterback inactive on game day. Do you think it's just part and parcel of the roster, or do you think that a team should have all their quarterbacks available?
I think teams should be, and they do it for competitive balance, because not everyone's got their 53, not everyone's fully healthy, so you only dress 45 on game day or whatever. I think the quarterback's a unique position. They should be having as many of those in there as possible. I don't want to see a wide receiver playing quarterback. So yeah, I think they should be considered separate and different. I think in terms of more games and roster sizes should be bigger. Let's not kid ourselves. Aaron Rodgers is going to play every meaningful game for the Green Bay Packers, though. so it's not going to change that part of it. But if you had more running backs on your roster, more receivers, more linemen that you could rotate through, more players at every position, you add an extra bye week, so you're playing, you're playing 18 games over 20 weeks or something. Then I think that's a way to look at player safety. But yes, I think roster sizes have to be improved.
Now looking ahead to
Michael, I've got another. Sorry, just going to say I've got another. Just a couple more, if that's all right. Because I've got another call at past.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So quickly now, just looking ahead to this season, your opinions and how you think it's gonna plan out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, again, as I said earlier, I think it's going to be hugely competitive, unpredictable, a wild ride. It always is. I think the strength of the league is in the AFC, even though the NFC's won the last 2 Super Bowls. I think the AFC is just going to be crazy with all these quarterbacks, and seeing some of the, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, and what does Russell Wilson do in Denver? Josh Allen is elite. Patrick Mahomes, and then what can Tua do in Miami? Does he have a good season off the back of Miami openly courting Tom Brady? So I think it's going to be wide open. If I was going to put a prediction out there, I would back Buffalo to win it all. I think the Bills have got everything you need. They were 13 seconds away from down in the Chiefs last year. I think Josh Allen was playing on another level in the playoffs. So as long as they keep Josh Allen upright, I think the Bills can win it all. And then in the NFC, I think I don't know. I mean, the Rams are going to be there or thereabouts. Tampa Bay, but I'm just something in my back of my mind. What's going on with Tom Brady? Why is he leaving camp for 10 days? Did he have a cruise booked when he retired? And Giselle said, we got to go on this cruise anyway. I don't know. It's a strange one. So I think Green Bay, again, with Rodgers, is going to be knocking about. I'm going to say Buffalo beat Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl.
Oh, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. So, Neil, thank you so much. And good luck for the new season.
Thanks, Michael. Good luck with the project. And thanks for picking me out. I'm sorry it took so long.